pays quarterly taxes. The thing is that with a W-2 or a job, you pay, like, your employer takes it out of your paycheck and you don't really think about it. But when you are self-employed, you are your own employer, so you're responsible for that part of the equation. So it's not like if you're self-employed you pay more. No, it's just that you are responsible for what your employer used to do. And I think a lot of people are confused because they're like, why am I paying more taxes now that I'm self-employed? And I'm like, no. You're not paying more taxes.
Hello, welcome back to the show. I'm excited to have this conversation with this amazing mujer who is also a CPA, an expert, someone that I honestly have been waiting for. So, Laura, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Yes, very honored to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
I want to have a conversation with you regarding taxes for small businesses because it seems like even though there's so much information out there, people are still struggling with the knowledge around taxes. I want the audience to get to know you because I have been following your journey on social media. We have connected through multiple speaking stages, but I love for you to share how did you ended up becoming a CPA?
I started through the business route in college, and I slowly realized that I'm really good at accounting, like the basics, like everybody thinks it's about numbers, but it's really about logic. It's just like the logic behind how the numbers work, pretty much. And that's kind of what happened. I got through the rabbit hole and I actually started my career in what's called the Big Four of accounting.
What is that, the Big Four?
The Big Four is like the biggest accounting firms in the world. It's Deloitte, Pricewaterhouse, Ernst and Young, and then KPMG. And while I love like Deloitte, Open Doors, and all of that, there is a high burnout rate. You do work a lot of hours, and that's the deal. That you get their name in your resume, but you do have to work 80 to 90 hours a week. So it's a little bit in the craziness. I got not the most fulfilling career and not the most sustainable. Like in the future, you wanted to be a mom. Like obviously that's not something.
Yeah.
And then I stopped working there. Or I quit. And then what ended up happening is that I started working in smaller and smaller firms, and I started dealing with smaller and smaller clients. And I started realizing that there's a gap between the 5 to 10 million businesses and the ones that are starting. Either you have an in-house accountant, or like you're winging it most of the time. So it's like, let's go ahead and fill that gap between even like between people that are starting or people that are like 50 to 100K to the 5, 10, $12 million in revenue. So that's the career side.
I love that. So share with us a little bit about how opening your own business has helped you with balancing motherhood. You have a son who, by the way, is adorable. But I
Thank you.
also see you with your partner, just making sure that you are doing family things, that you're investing time in just really enjoying life in a way that is sustainable, especially for us as women. And so tell us a little bit about how has your business, do you feel like you make the right call by saying, okay, I don't want to be part of these big corporations, but now rather have my own?
Definitely. Like, there's nothing like, stopping. For example, the last week he got, my son's name is Leo, and Leo got sick, and I completely just took a day where I'm like, I'm so sorry, I have to take care of him. I do have to, there's two sides to this. So there's a lot of flexibility, right? Where if he's sick, I don't have to tell anyone, or I guess I have to tell my team, but it's nothing like a permission. Like I don't have to get anyone's permit or anything. So that's the good thing. So I definitely think I did the right call because I'm able to take appointments and at the end of the day be like the primary caretaker of our son. And that's honestly a blessing. I am 100%. I wake up with Leo and then have breakfast and then have like a slow morning and then the other part to it is that I do have support. I have a nanny. She is the most amazing human being. I love her. And she takes Leo from like 9:30 to 4. So
Love
from
that.
9:30 to 4, and she cooks lunch for me and she puts him to sleep and a bunch of other things. So I do have support. And honestly, it's been life changing. Like life
Yeah.
changing.
And I love these, right? I love that we're normalizing the conversation around it's okay to utilize your money to build a support system that you need to succeed as an entrepreneur. Because those entrepreneurs that are doing it all, they ended up with essentially what a high achieving job in corporate America is, which is you long work hours, you have to be producing, you have to also adapt this mindset of I have to work harder versus, hey, how can I use the money, the cash flow that I have through my business to help me just live the life that honestly a lot of us created, right? Because we decided that we needed to take a risk and not everyone is willing to take the risk, but for those of us that have done it, it's totally worth it. Now, I want to shift the conversation around small businesses because I have been helping people start or launching their businesses. And even though there is information around taxes, I feel like when we have someone like you who is an expert in taxes and accounting, and also a Latina, by the way, it's easier to understand why being knowledgeable and literate about these taxes and the tax laws and how tax work can benefit small businesses to build generational wealth. So I want to start with a question that I get asked so often, and I said, let me bring an expert because I want her to give us her 2 cents. Is having an LLC the reason why people save taxes?
So you open an LLC for the liability protection, meaning the legal stuff. You are trying to protect yourself against any lawsuits. There's no extra tax benefits if you open an LLC versus if you don't.
I love that. Now, the next question that I have, which by the way, I let people know that you are coming and they like messaged me their questions. So I was like, thank you, because it just makes it more engaging for me and also for them, right? So if someone is self-employed, do they need to pay taxes?
Yes, everyone. I get this question a lot. If they pay me cash, do I need to pay taxes? Yes. If you have any kind of hobby income, you have to pay taxes on that. Yes. Any kind of income that you get in and outside of the US, if you live here as your permanent residence or you're a US citizen, you have to pay taxes on that.
I love that. Okay, so a lot of small businesses struggle with the concept of quarterly taxes. Can you explain what those are? Maybe walk us through behind the scenes of how can someone prepare themselves for these quarterly taxes, and also what are the benefits of going through the process of I have to be really good at my quarterly taxes.
Okay, so first of all, it is required. Quarterly taxes are required if you think you're gonna owe more than $1,000. For federal and state is usually $500 throughout the year. So if you think that you're gonna owe more than that amount, then you need to start doing those payments. So just FYI. As far as preparing yourself, I would say, and I generally advise this to my clients, have a savings account just for taxes or a checking. I mean, it just depends how much money it is, but some kind of account where you can have that money set aside. And I generally recommend 10 to 15% of sales going through there. It really depends on your scenario, but that's kind of like the benchmark. Why do we do this? Because what ends up happening is that everyone sees $20,000 in their account and they spend $20,000. And then when you owe five, you're like, oh my God, I spend it all in, for example, I have a client in camera equipment. I have one that owns a gym on like bands for the clients, which are important, but are not, like between, you need to pay the taxes first. So that's like my number one recommendation as far as like where to get the money. Put it aside. Don't look at it until it's needed. So that's the first thing. And then as far as making the estimated taxes. So this is so estimated taxes are based on the last quarter activity, right? So for example, from the first quarter, so from January through March, now that we're starting, for example, Or the next, I can also do the example from the last quarter of 2025. So from September 1st to December 1st, we make the next estimated tax payment is going to be January 15th. So what's important here? First of all, we need the books up to date to know what you owe on taxes. So super important and super boring, I know, but like key for all financial decisions is to start with a good bookkeeper or bookkeeping system. And then once you know the numbers can, somebody, an expert or somebody that you, hopefully somebody like a CPA or a tax professional can actually estimate your taxes for you.
I love this conversation. And lately, I have been big on analogies because I am learning new terminology for something that I'm doing outside Sayola Wealth. And we have been using analogies to describe terminology. And as you were talking, I was thinking about this concept of paying quarterly taxes is almost like taking vitamins, not because you don't want to get sick, but because when you get sick, you actually have a stronger immune system and it takes you less longer to recover. So I don't know if my analogy is that good, but I was
Yeah.
thinking.
But also keep in mind that everyone pays quarterly taxes. The thing is that with a W-2 or a job, like your employer takes it out of your paycheck and you don't really think about it. But when you are self-employed, you are your own employer. So you're responsible for that part of the equation. So it's not like if you're self-employed, you pay more. No, it's just that you are responsible for what your employer used to do. And I think a lot of people are confused because they're like, why am I paying more taxes now that I'm self-employed? And I'm like, no. You're not paying more taxes. You are not paying more taxes. It's just that you have to physically, put some effort in. It's not like a every 2 weeks kind of payment or every week, however you get paid. It's every quarter, and every quarter it just looks bigger.
I like that you were able to explain that because I feel like that is a mindset, right? Like, hey, this is why my business isn't working because now I have to pay taxes. And I think you said it so well. Like, we all pay taxes. It's just who files the taxes on your behalf. It's either you or is an employer who legally has to report that as well. Now, I want to shift the conversation into write offs because everyone loves write-offs, but I also feel, and you can tell me like what has been your experience, that as entrepreneurs sometimes we focus on writing off the wrong things rather than shifting the mindset on how can I utilize this write-off opportunity for long-term wealth. Specifically, I'm thinking about the people that want to focus on a website versus a 401k, solo 401k, or a SEP IRA. So can you just educate us a little bit on like what are write-offs, why are they important, and how can a small business use them to their advantage to build wealth?
So let me just start with the IRS gives three kind of people benefits, special benefits over normal people that just work. One of them is an entrepreneur. The other one is a real estate professional. And then the next one is retirement accounts and all of that, which has its own write-offs. So that's the first part of this thing. However, we have to make sure that you're not producing a write-off and then paying the full cost so you save 20 or 30 or 40% how much your taxes are. So what I'm talking about is, for example, I had a client who just came on board and he's like, well, I don't need a car, but I can buy it if it's going to save me on taxes. And I'm like, hold on. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, no. So my previous CPA did this. And I'm like, no. If you want to buy a car because you need it, that's great. But what ends up happening is that a lot of people pay what's a car right now? 50K. My car is from 2020.
Just around, yeah.
Yeah, like 50K. So you'll be saving what, 20K? Like that's not a tax benefit. Obviously, if you need the car, go ahead and buy it. But like if you want to change your car every year because it's a tax benefit, then it doesn't really, it's not going to be super effective. So that's, like we have to be smart about that particular, like there's different types of write-offs. And then as far as retirement accounts, yes. So definitely funding so a lot of things that I say is like, if you have, like you should have the cash flow or at least the plan in place to have that retirement account. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't fund their retirement because they're so like, okay, I want to grow this business, grow this business, grow this business. And they forget that eventually they're not going to grow the business and they're going to eventually retire and forget. I definitely think that retirement planning is very important, especially because, I mean, well, same for a worker, but like we stop working, hopefully we sell the business, but what happens if we don't? Like the income ends literally just abruptly.
I love that. Yeah, and I also want to add someone who is shifting from a 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship, like the goal is, I mean, aside from being your own boss and having autonomy, I also feel like it's a way for you to build financial freedom, which leveraging the tax law to your advantage in terms of I want to utilize my business to fund my own retirement accounts and also get additional benefits. For example, being able to contribute as an employee, but also as an employer, depending on what your CPA recommends, because everyone's situation is very different. So I love this conversation. Now I'm going to bring it back to you and tell us a little bit more about, because I learned so many things about you and I was like, oh my God, like I have to bring her. You also forgot to share with us what was your background.
Yes, I mean, I completely forgot. I'm sorry. It's been such a
Tell us
long
about
time
that,
that
because
I'm
I
like,
think it's just so powerful.
yeah. So I'm Colombiana. I was born and raised in Colombia, and I got here to the US when I was 14. Two 40-pound bags, I remember. My dad, and that was it. Like my dad got a scholarship in a local university, and I went to college then. So that's kind of like my background. But it was, I mean, going from nothing, nothing, nothing. And I was lucky because my parents didn't know English and they were, they had professionals, but it was, starting over, not knowing like the credit system, like what is credit? How do you build credit? And that also a lot of the community work that I do that I can say about locally in my area is related to that journey. We didn't know how to build credit, even though like my parents kind of knew some English. We didn't know what it's like, to purchase a car. In Colombia, purchasing a car is really, really hard. How do you purchase a house is the next one. And you're like, oh my God, I don't know. And from going from there to that, it was really life changing. And a lot of what I do is related to that journey. Like I not only do taxes, I do sit with my clients and teach them things that, you're probably teaching too in another level, like, retirement accounts. And I do feel especially Latinos and minorities, they're just taught to work hard and that doesn't just like
Yeah.
it's not going, it's not working. So yeah.
I think that this is why I wanted to also bring you to the podcast, because there's so many values that we both share in terms of, we both like to educate people. We both like to also see where one can benefit from the other, and also always coming back to our parents' story, right? Like what did they went through that was hard that now we can teach somebody else. They don't have to work as hard. Like I think like all of us have to work, but is the difference between, do you want to work super hard or do you want to just make the time to learn and educate yourself in the language and then implement what you're learning?
Yeah. And I also feel like we get hijacked by the sometimes too much consumerism. Like you need to buy the new thing or you need the new house or you need the blah, blah, blah. And it's not the smartest thing to do. It doesn't mean that you never do it, but I do think like we have to think strategically about these things and not so much with like, I'm going to say this like emotional, like, oh my God, I want it. Not to say that you shouldn't, buy stuff, but I do think like it needs to be thought out.
Yeah, 100%. I have this rule of, I mean, even buying a car right now, we do need a car, but also we are not ready to just sign off on it, because I also told my husband, like, well, what else can we do before we we make that purchase, right? And for us, it's really like let's max those investment accounts or let's invest in our health, which for this year has been very, very important. And so, not everything that needs to be write off should also be write off, right? And I love that you touch on consumerism because some of the small businesses are also spending the money that they don't have because they're trying to keep up with everyone else. They're seeing, so Laura has a brand new website. And so now, because she has a website, maybe I need to have a website, right? And so there's a lot of consumerism within entrepreneurship of, well, she rebranded, I rebrand, or she got the photographer, I get the photographer. It's sometimes not so much attached to consumerism in the terms of clothing or housing, but in the keeping up with each other, which as an educator, it also makes me sad because when I'm looking at small business finances, I'm also finding like, man, like, hey, tell me what happened here. Like, walk me through the way you were thinking when you made this purchase. And a lot of it is coming back to what you're saying, the impulsiveness of, I just want it, right? And so my rule is 72 hours. Sometimes I put things even on social media and through I'm like, oh yeah, I like the blouse or the dress or whatever. And I just leave it there for a couple of days or 3 days.
The
And then
only
I said, oh yeah, I do want it. Then most of the time it's like, no, I actually don't want it. But I also do the opposite when I know that my brain is, well, just invest more, invest. I'm like, no, hold on. Like, there's also some things that you need to spend money like right now. And so sometimes I do also splurge with things that I promised myself that I was going to get. It's very minimal when I say like, well, I don't need it, but I want it. But I also have the balance of wait 3 days. And then also, if you promise yourself that you were going to get a new dress, let's say like a gala dress, because I haven't had one for a long time. I finally did it again. But then I'm like, okay, let's do it rather than thinking, man, that's like $500 that I could invest, right? So finding the balance, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. So for entrepreneurs, I always say things like, I found this analogy, which you're going to like. So your business is like a new baby and money is air. You need air before you can put a dress on that baby or pants on that baby. And that is so important because I feel like people forget the air and then start putting websites and logos and things like and blah and blah. And I'm like, it doesn't like focus on making the sale first. Because the
Right.
invoice, it doesn't matter if it's Laura Zarrate or Latina CPAs or Pepito Perez CPAs or like, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It's a service or a product, and you are selling it before you make all these kinds of investments.
Yeah. What has been your experience with small businesses and the mindset around sales? Now that you mentioned sales.
So, I mean, especially that I'm going to be honest, a lot of women are just afraid of talking about money. Being completely honest, that was me when I started the business. And then I see over and over again me on other people, and I'm like, no, 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 no. So but they're either afraid or they're afraid of talking about money at all or talking about their value.
So what shifted for you, Laura?
Well, I did a couple course like education, to be honest. There was one particular education workshop, and they made us put how much was the value of all the education that I've had, the experience with small business taxes, the experience like 10 years of experience with X, and it came up to $3 million. So like, what would it take for someone to go through your career? And then I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is this I have like a $3 million asset and I'm not utilizing it to the best of the ability. So I need to change. And also one of the things that really happened also was looking at other people charging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to like a seminar with other CPAs and I saw CPAs and they were charging $10,000 per return. And I was like, I didn't even know you could do that.
Mm.
Oh, so having clients that pay them 30 to 60K just a year. Obviously, they probably like are like just the people that they work with are a little bit bigger. But just seeing somebody like be and being, especially like having your same educational background, credentials, all of that. And even like I've seen other CPA Latinos that, yeah, just do that. So it's just seeing that really helped me. So it's possible. I've seen it. It can happen for me. So yeah.
It makes me think of a concept that I have on my book, the return of proximity, where we put ourselves in rooms that sometimes don't have any immediate return. Like it's not like 24-hour return, but then that gives you the exposure of, wait, Laura is charging 10,000. Like, can I aspire to do that, right? But also it helps us take inventory of the skills that we have, right? And those of us that have it, it's a permission slip of, yeah, I can also do that 10,000. And those of us that don't have it is, what are the skills or certifications that I need to acquire? So in the next 2 years, I can also become the person that charges 10,000. So I love that you share these. Now, before I let you go, I want to ask you, what is your definition of wealth?
Freedom. I mean, freedom to be, not only have a family and be with my son and all of that, travel, experience life, just work until, I could work 3 to 4 p.m. and then the rest would be like your family's time. I think freedom more than that is my.
So, Laura, thank you for coming to the show. Could you please share your website? We're going to add it to the show notes. But I also want to give you the opportunity to share your business website with us, because one of the philosophies that we share is that we love reinvesting back in our community. And so we want to invite the listeners and the viewers to connect with you, but also to do business with you. So, what is your website?
Yes. So our firm is called Athena CPAs. So Athena like the goddess, and then CPAS. And then the website is athenacpas.com. And then that's the same Instagram handle, Athena CPAs. And then, yeah, you can find us. We do have Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that. So I would love to connect, and that would be great to hear your feedback on it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show. It has been an honor. And let's go ahead and build well juntas.
Yay! Yes.